Hi, this is Susan again with Career Services at the University of Montana Western. We've been talking about preparing for grad school or work after graduation, being two career pathways. One is the grad school career pathway, and the other being career options and going to work right after graduation. In both cases, you'll need to have a resume, um, professional looking and well put together, leaving out no information, making everything relevant to who you are and what you've accomplished since high school. You will need to know some information about job searching that isn't just mean going door to door or looking at classifieds, but it is networking with others. It is knowing which search engines to use to find appropriate work for your skill level. Portfolio building is another one we'll have a workshop on, and we'll have a workshop on interviewing. So, this workshop is about cool cover letters. Okay, so whereas the resume is a detailed information list of your skills, your experience, hard skills and soft skills, a cover letter is a narration of information that is work or academically related. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of tie things together, make those connections between one thing and another. Sometimes people write cover letters grouped based on their skill sets, and others will organize the material in a cover letter chronologically from the time they started post-secondary education. So let's look at the format and the salutations. So the main purpose of a cover letter is it's introducing your resume, and you want your prospective employer or admissions school at, or excuse me, admissions committee at the school you're applying to want to look over your resume more carefully. So you don't want to go on about information in your life. It's not a biography about your life, but it is an introduction to the resume in a softer, more less formal, I guess, tone. It's put in front of your resume when you're organizing your application if you're going to be giving paper copies to a prospective employer. You want to provide enough information to interest them. You need to save some information for an interview. And in interesting them in who you are means that they may be creating questions to ask you during an interview. So, yes, you don't need to say everything. You don't need to fill in every moment or all of the blanks with a cover letter. It's to sell who you are, your experience and knowledge to an employer, but also, again, to interest them in wanting to talk to you. So give a concise overview of your experience and how it relates to the job. It may not be the exact same kind of job you had before, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Um, Use the same heading as you have on your resume. So by that, I'm saying create your own personalized stationery. The look should be the same. If you put your contact information in the header of your resume, do the same with your cover letter. In that way, you don't have to put a return address in a cover letter. You've already created your stationery, and it saves a little bit more room for you to write. Address it to a specific person if you know who that is. Sometimes that's going to be the head of the human resources department at an employer. Sometimes it's going to be a search committee at a certain employer's. It could be the name of a professor. If you're writing to a professor specifically at a university, asking them to consider you as a grad student. And also use the proper title. So if it's professor, you want to say Professor so and so. If it's Mr. Dear Search Committee, you could be Dear Sirs and Madam. Please use the proper title and formal opening. Here's an example of a cover letter written by Jane Cool. Even though this is a postgraduate school candidate looking, a master's student actually looking for a position in education, but that doesn't matter because you can see that this is a very formal looking cover letter. And let's look at some things here. So her contact information is at the top. Her name is a little bit bigger. It includes her address, full address, a phone number, and a email address. Then we space down 2. It's a date. We space down 2 more. The name of the person that you are writing to. This could be search committee. And then you would skip a title. But this could be Joe Smith, president, and then organization, Smith and Associates, with the address, city, state, and zip. And then Dear Mr. Smith. We start with the position that Jane's applying for, and she's not starting with I or me. She says, the position of graduate student advisor for the Master of Arts in Liberal Studies degree program at ABC College is of great interest to me. And then talks a little bit more about her qualifications, but also just about she's giving the impression that she knows about this position and what this position means and what this position would be responsible for. And it's not just the skills that are listed or the requirements of the job. You can see I also have experienced firsthand the comforting effect. So she's talking about soft skills here that are needed by a person in this position. And she's saying is that person. So this is a really great cover letter. I want to know more about this person. The second paragraph, she's talking a little bit about what she's done in the past. And even though she's qualified now with a master's degree in liberal arts to apply for this position in higher ed, she used to be an electrician. And, what can we say about that position? Well, we know that those people have to have a very technical skill set. And we also know that when she was elected as chairman of an executive board, she was able to negotiate and be diplomatic and professional in her dealings with other professionals, as well as advising apprentices. So she is drawing a connection between her job as an electrician to the job she wants in a higher ed institution. And she then brings it together and she says, I believe both my educational background and my work relating duties, blah, 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 qualifies me for consideration in this position. In the same paragraph, thank you for your time, consideration, and forthcoming response. So a very professional way to say, I look forward to hearing from you, but not using those cliche words that people have been using for the last 40 years or so. So, yeah, make it interesting. I want to know who Jane Cool is. I want to know how she went from being an electrician to getting a Master of Arts in Liberal Studies degree. Then we say sincerely, that's a good closing as always. She is signing it if she's going to print it and hand it to someone. But if not, if it's going to be submitted online, she is just typing her name. Okay, try not to start with an I or. And let's look here, the first paragraph. All right, so repetitive. These are for you to look at the time that you have afforded to you. So you can stop this and rewind it, whatever you want. I'm going to keep moving forward. Um, so explain why you're writing, and that's what she did. The position of interests me. How did you find out about it? If you have someone that a friend who recommended you for this position, you want to mention that. Charlie Brown um, uh, suggested I contact you about this position. He thought we would be a good fit. Okay, just something like that. Then they could talk to Charlie and see what Charlie has to say about you. Um, you're focusing on what you can do for the employer, not what the employer can do for you. You want to make sure that they know that you are bringing something to the table, and that's the way it always should be in a professional career. Looking at the second paragraph is where you're going to really accentuate your skills and experience, give specific examples. This could be skills that you are trained to do and have experience doing. So those would be called hard skills. But then there's also soft skills, parts of your character, um, the work ethic that you've learned over time. A lot of your soft skills are influenced by your parents. They're influenced by your teachers, and they're influenced by your professors because these people have modeled these types of skills to you. So these are things such as accountability, um, knowing how to dress in a certain situation, knowing how to respond to people of different titles in a different environment, and just kind of read an environment and know intuitively what is a good way to proceed. So, what do you know about social media and how that is related to the workforce? Are people, you know, sitting around on their phones an office that you're applying at? And if not, then that's a cue to you that you wouldn't be able to do that either. So, kind of give specific examples of both hard and soft skills. You want to talk about your academic background and training, and that's going to include any internships that you had, any field experiences you've had. That's where Montana Western really excels in that we have graduates who are able to talk about field experiences. That gives you an edge when it comes to applying for grad school or for a position that does require an undergraduate degree and not a graduate degree. So let's look here a little further, emphasize those accomplishments and recognitions. Those things are going to be like awards you've received. The positions could be school club president or a senator, something with responsibility, any kind of award that you've received from the chancellor's office or through an a contest, something like that, that you have applied to and received an award for. You also want to highlight transferable skills, and this is exactly what Jane Cool did when she talked about being an electrician and being able to work with apprentices, but also with an executive board. So saying, I can work with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and this is what's going to make me a good advisor at a higher ed institution. She's drawing that connection between the two different types of work. So, draw that connection, spell it out for them. Why do you want to work there? This could be something like my dad always talked about his job at your company and how much he loved it and how great the work was and how satisfied he was at being able to contribute. So just do some research, know who that employer is, and know why them? Why are you applying for them? And be real. All right, closing paragraph. Thank the reader for their time and consideration. Express that it is a positive match between you and the employer. Offer your availability for an interview. And before I go into editing, I do want to talk about that match. When we're talking about that, we're not talking about a date, obviously. That's where we talk about matches, most of the time. But, a lot of people have similar skills. Um, People have similar personalities, they have similar experiences. But not everybody is a cookie cutout of another person. So when you're selling yourself through a cover letter, what is it about you that is going to make you the ideal candidate? Even though somebody you went to school with has the same credentials, maybe even down to the same GPA that you have, what about your background and experience is going to really give you an edge in that position? Did you, if you're applying for a horse training position, did you grow up with horses all of your life? Did you grow up in 4-H? Did you help show horses? Did you help train young people in horsemanship? Did you, take the horsemanship degree program so that you could apply to be a professional trainer? All of these things are really, really important, and it's going to be different than the person who you are going to be different than the person who grew up in a rural town and grew up with horses all of their lives. You've had something else. You've had academic experience to back up your personal experience, and that's really big. All right, editing. Read it out loud. Make sure it flows. Uh, you find things in your writing by reading it out loud that you skip over when you reread it. Sometimes we just skip over words, and reading it out loud will definitely help you find those errors. So tailor it to the employer in the language used in the job description. I'm talking very casually as I present these because I know who my audience is. In your letter, you want to make sure you know who the audience is, and please be able to write to that level of professionalism. So don't use a generic letter. If you are going to be using a hard copy, make sure that this paper is the same for both the cover and the resume. Um, Also, you want to keep the letter in the present tense, whereas your resume will have a combination of work that you are now doing, currently doing, presently doing, and work you have done or used to do, the past tense of work that you've done in the past. But the letter should always be present tense. Don't use a one sentence third paragraph. I look forward to hearing from you. No, that's not okay. Use that as part of your final paragraph. Avoid slang terms and cliches. So, obviously, the way I'm talking right now about these different things to consider in a cover letter is not the way I would be talking to someone in an interview or the way that I write. It's a completely different approach. Then proofread and have someone else look over your paper as well. And the Learning Center English tutors can do that for you too. All right. So I've tried to include as much information as I know of. Of course, don't forget your professors are going to be the specialists for grad school, and it's real simple. They wouldn't be professors if they hadn't gone to grad school. So ask them. It's usually a fond memory for most people, and they, I'm sure, would love to talk to you about it and give you some heads up. If you feel that the process has changed a little bit since your professor was in school, the truth is it probably has. And it has even for people who graduated from a grad school even 5 years ago. So a lot of that is just the way the times change, and what is a popular degree program 1 year might not be, or it is now and it didn't used to be. So there are a lot of different things. The best response is probably going to come from the school you want to apply to. They are really willing to talk to you and share with you what they have to offer you. So a student who has really achieved academically as an undergrad is going to be recruited. They're going to look at all of their applicants and see what, who is that special person? What is that person? Um, who is that person, I should say, that is going to be bringing something new to this field of study, and it's going to be an exciting asset to the university, to the professors who will be mentoring them. That's what they're looking for, and that's what you're looking for too, because that's going to make your experience all the better. So anyway, you can call and write to me too, um, coming down to the Learning Center, to the Career Services office, or write to us, and we'll be happy to make an appointment with you too. Okay, good luck applying for grad school.